Mic check. Hello, hello. Welcome to Yap session number 2, official Yap session of Jones Key TV number 2. Um, Today we're just jamming it up again, not really talking about much. Um, Hurricane Aaron's coming in. It's a little overcast. I think it might be 4 days out from where we're at. I just woke up, so I'm a little groggy. Um, I gotta stop saying That's something that I want to do is stop saying I don't like taking huge pauses either. I want this to be a yap session, not a ponder session. So I want to keep going off the dome, talking about random stuff, but it's hard to just come up with something random. I get why this is content that people enjoy now because this is pretty tough. I guess yesterday when I did my first yap session, it was easy. It was an introductory yap session, and I just was telling you about myself. So I guess I could tell you more about myself. Um, or I could give you some advice this time. I guess it's really up to me, right? So maybe what I'll talk about is failure. Failure, maybe maybe I'll pick keywords to talk about because maybe that's what we'll do this session. Brainstorm what other sessions could look like. So I'm thinking failure is a good topic, but and maybe that's what we focus on later in the video, but for other videos, yeah, maybe I'll just pick meaningful words and just find something like failure to talk about where I can give my own personal experiences from failure and talk about what it means to me to fail. um, it's like Rocky says, you know, or I think, does Rocky say this line? Yeah, Rocky says this line. He goes, it's not about how hard you get hit. It's about how hard you can get. It's about how hard you can get hit and keep hitting. Or it's not about how hard you get knocked down. It's about, or I don't know. I don't know the exact line. But basically, it's not about how hard you get hit. It's about how hard you get hit and keep going. Get back up. You got to get back on the saddle. It's it's um it's about not giving up. You know, there's gonna be a lot of times in life where, and I could speak pretty heavily to this, you just want to give up. You just want to clock out. You just want to not participate anymore. And sometimes that's the right decision, but only you can decide that for yourself. When is the right time to quit? Um, but like the quote says, you know, it's not about how many times, I'll alter it a little bit. It's not about how many times you quit, it's about how many times you keep starting again. You may quit one or two things, but how many things have you started? You know, I always like to think about Michael Jordan's stats. Um, Fun fact, my mom went on a date with Michael Jordan, a double date. She was not his date. She was going with a friend who brought Michael Jordan as a date. They went to a concert, and this was before he was famous. This was when he was in college, and a bunch of people came up to him and was asking for his autographs and stuff. And she didn't really know who he was, but she could tell that he was famous somehow a little bit. Um, anyways, Michael Jordan, he's missed a lot of his shots in his life. And if he stopped after his first missed basketball goal, well, do you think that he would be as great as we see him today? And the same goes for what's that one guy's name? I think Thomas Jefferson, who's I'm thinking of. Who invented the light bulb? Thomas Jefferson? That sounds right. Okay, so you know how many times he tried to come up with, like, he tried to invent so many different things, light bulb being one of them. And you know how many times he failed and failed and failed before he actually designed what we know of as the light bulb today? I think 1,000 times, maybe a few hundred times he failed. So if you have some sort of goal you're trying to reach, if you haven't failed at that goal at least 5 or 10 times, you haven't even started. So I think failing is very important. I think you really need to fail at life to become who you're supposed to become. And yeah, I've failed a few times. I dropped out of college. I got honorably discharged from the Marines, but you know, it's something I would have wished I did a little bit more of. I wouldn't say I necessarily quit the Marines, but um, I have quit a few things. I will say that I quit wrestling in high school after one semester. It wasn't really for me. You know, there's only so much time you can spend on one thing. Your brain is only so big, and you only have so many room for so many thoughts. You can't think of everything all the time. So that's what you have to ask yourself. Who do you want to become? Think of that final version, that peak version of yourself, and ask yourself, what what does it how many what does it take? How many failures is it going to take for me to get to where I'm going? And you shouldn't try to fail. You should try to succeed, but don't be afraid of failure. Don't be afraid of it, because when you fail, you learn. And the people that don't learn when they fail, they're always going to keep failing and they'll never succeed. You know, whenever I used to play video games with my friends, I would try to be the voice of reason. You know, when you can't win every single game. If you could win every single game, you would be a pro player. You would be playing for the MLG, Major League Gaming, and you would be on some team and you'd be making millions of dollars. But you can't win every game until you lose a bunch of games. But even the pros lose. Like, you get to the pro level, one person has to lose there. And you know that loss in that pro level might be that loss that that person needs to go win. You see what I'm saying? You have to lose a certain amount of times. You have to quit a certain amount of jobs. No one finds their dream job the first time they apply to a job. It's just not how it happens. Anyways, the main message here, because I got to wrap this up, the main message here about failure is to embrace it, embrace failure, and sort of welcome it to a certain extent. Obviously, no one enjoys failing, but you know, failure is a sign of determination and that you keep trying. So keep trying, keep failing, and eventually you will succeed. But as Yoda says, do or do not. There is no try. And I like that, because it just basically says get out there, get after it, and don't mess around. I say don't be afraid to fail. This was a good yap session. I was a little worried in the beginning, but confident about it now. I think I'm going to do that in the future. Pick one word and keep that as the main talking point for about 10 minutes. I'm Keith from Jones Key TV, and thanks for coming to my yap session. I will catch you in the next one. I do plan on doing one every day. Bye.